The alarm rang at 0500 hours, just like every morning on Kepler-7 space station. Hannah rolled out of her narrow bunk and hit the cold metal floor with her bare feet. Around her, other cadets were doing the same thing, but they were not like her. Hannah was human. The others were Vorthok. The Vorthok cadets were tall and covered in thick gray skin that looked like armor. Their eyes were black and cold. When they looked at Hannah, she could see what they were thinking. She did not belong here. Move faster, human, growled Cadet Dekma as he pushed past her. His shoulder hit hers hard enough to make her stumble. The other Vorthok laughed. Hannah said nothing. She had learned that talking back only made things worse. The Galactic Defense Academy was the best military school in known space. For 300 years, only the strongest species had been allowed to join. The Vorthok Empire controlled most of it. They were the teachers, the commanders, and almost all the students. Then, humans had discovered faster-than-light travel. Everything changed. Now there were 12 humans at the academy. Hannah was one of them. She was also the only human woman in the washroom. Hannah splashed cold water on her face. Her reflection looked back at her from the metal mirror. Short black hair, dark eyes, and skin that was soft compared to the aliens around her. She looked weak. She knew the Vorthok thought she was weak. Maybe they were right, Hannah called a voice. She turned to see Park Minho walking toward her. He was another human cadet, tall and thin with a friendly smile. Minho was one of the few people who still talked to her. Ready for another fun day? He asked. His smile was tired. Always, Hannah replied. It was their joke. Nothing about the academy was fun for humans. They walked together toward the dining hall. The corridors of Kepler-7 were wide and tall, built for species much larger than humans. Everything here made Hannah feel small. The dining hall was huge and filled with noise. Hundreds of cadets sat at long tables, eating and talking. The Vorthok sat together in the center. Other alien species sat around them. The humans sat alone at a small table in the corner. Hannah got her food from the serving line. It was gray paste. That was supposed to have all the nutrients a body needed. It tasted like nothing. At the human table, she found her usual spot next to Minho. Across from them sat Kim Ji-ho, a quiet boy with serious eyes. Next to him was Yoon Swa, who was always taking apart small devices to see how they worked. Did you hear? Swa whispered. They are changing the combat training rules again. What now? Minho asked. No more safety limits on the practice weapons, Ji-ho said quietly. Commander Vekvar announced it this morning. Hannah felt her stomach drop. The practice weapons were supposed to be set to low power so no one would get seriously hurt. Without safety limits, they could kill. That is not safe, she said. Safe for who? Swa asked. The Vorthok have thick skin and strong bones. We do not. Across the dining hall, Commander Vekvar was standing at the teacher's table. He was the largest Vorthok Hannah had ever seen, with scars covering his gray skin. His black eyes swept across the room and stopped on the human table. He smiled, showing sharp teeth. The smile made Hannah's skin crawl. After breakfast, all cadets went to their first class, military history. The teacher was Captain Velthara, a tall blue-skinned alien from the Zephyrian species. She was one of the few teachers who treated humans fairly. Today, we will study the Battle of Rigel Station, Captain Velthara said. Her voice was soft and musical. Who can tell me why this battle was important? Several Vorthok hands shot up. Captain Velthara pointed to one of them. The Vorthok fleet destroyed the rebel base and showed the galaxy our superior strength. The cadet said proudly. That is one way to see it, Captain Velthara replied. But what about the tactical elements? The rebels were outnumbered 10-1, yet they held the station for 6 months. How? Hannah raised her hand. She knew the answer. She had studied this battle many times. Captain Velthara nodded at her. Cadet Lee. They used hit-and-run tactics, Hannah said. Small groups would attack supply lines and retreat before the main fleet could respond. They made the Vorthok fight in small spaces where numbers did not matter as much. Excellent, Captain Velthara said. This shows us that size and strength are not everything in war. Sometimes the smaller force can win through cleverness and determination. Behind Hannah, she heard a Vorthok cadet snort with disgust. Another one whispered, typical human. Always looking for ways to avoid a fair fight. Hannah's face turned red, but she did not turn around. After class, the cadets went to physical training. This was always the worst part of Hannah's day. The Vorthok were naturally stronger and faster than humans. During exercises, Hannah struggled to keep up, while they seemed to do everything easily. Today, Commander Vekvar was watching the training. He stood on a platform above the exercise area, his arms crossed over his massive chest. Combat pairs, shouted Instructor Grixtel, Commander Vekvar's second-in-command. You will practice hand-to-hand fighting. No weapons, no safety gear. Hannah felt her heart start beating faster. Hand-to-hand combat with a Vorthok could seriously hurt her. The instructor started calling out pairs, Vorthok with Vorthok, other aliens with their own species. Then he smiled. Cadet Lee Hannah, he called. You will fight Cadet Dekma. Dekma was the biggest cadet in their class. He was also Commander Dekvar's nephew. Hannah looked up at the commander and saw him smiling his cold smile. This was not random. This was planned. Hannah walked to the center of the training mat. Dekma followed her, cracking his knuckles. He was twice her size and covered in thick skin that would protect him from her punches. Try not to break too quickly, human, he said. Loud enough for everyone to hear. The other Vorthok laughed. Instructor Grixtel raised his hand. Begin. Dekma rushed forward like a charging bull. Hannah jumped to the side at the last second. The big Vorthok crashed into the wall behind where she had been standing. The room went quiet. Hannah had not tried to fight him. She had not tried to prove she was strong. She had simply moved out of the way. It was not the Vorthok way of fighting. It was something else, something human. Commander Vekvar's smile disappeared. His black eyes narrowed as he stared down at the small human girl who had just made his nephew look foolish. In that moment, Hannah realized something important. She was not supposed to win. She was not even supposed to survive. The academy was not trying to. 3 weeks passed after the hand-to-hand combat class. Hannah noticed that things were getting worse for the human cadets. Their food portions became smaller. Their training schedules became harder. Equipment would break when only humans were using it. The other humans noticed that my practice rifle exploded yesterday, Kim Ji-ho whispered during breakfast. His left hand was wrapped in bandages. The instructor said it was an old rifle, but Cadet Dekma used the same rifle right after me. It worked fine. My oxygen mask leaked during space training, added Choi Nara, another human cadet. She was small and quiet, with short hair and quick eyes. I almost passed out before they gave me a new one. Yoon Swa looked around to make sure no one was listening. This is not accident, she said. Someone is doing this to us. But who would believe us? Minho asked. We are just humans. They will say we are making excuses because we are weak. Hannah ate her grey paste and thought. She had been watching Commander Vek. Every time something bad happened to a human, he was nearby. Every time equipment failed, he had been in the equipment room before training. But she needed proof. That afternoon, all cadets went to the Combat Simulation Center. This was a huge room filled with machines that could create any battlefield. The simulations felt real. The weapons felt real. The only difference was that everything was supposed to be safe. Today, you will fight in teams, announced Instructor Grixtel. Each team will have 5 members. You will complete 3 missions. The team with the best score wins extra food privileges. The Vorthok cadets smiled. Extra food meant nothing to them, but it meant everything to the hungry humans. Hannah was put on a team with 4 other species. There was Declan, a tall blue alien with 4 arms. There was Krita, a small furry creature that was very fast. There was Zexith, a rock-like being that was incredibly strong. And there was Velra, a snake-like alien that could bend in impossible ways. They were good fighters, but they did not trust Hannah. She was human, she was weak. Stay behind us, human, Decallan said, as they entered the simulation room. Try not to get in the way. The first mission began. They were on a jungle planet, fighting against robot enemies. The air was hot and thick. Strange plants grew everywhere. The robots came at them from all directions. Hannah's weapon was a plasma rifle. She aimed carefully and fired. The blue energy beam hit a robot in the chest and destroyed it. She aimed again and hit another one. Not bad, Krita said, sounding surprised. They completed the first mission easily. The second mission was on an ice planet. The cold was so real that Hannah could see her breath. Her team fought flying enemies among tall ice mountains. Again, Hannah did her job well. She was not the strongest or the fastest, but she was accurate with her weapon and she thought quickly. The third mission was in space. They had to attack an enemy space station. Hannah floated in zero gravity, moving between metal corridors and fighting robot defenders. Her team was doing well. They were ahead of all the other teams. Then something went wrong. Hannah's plasma rifle started heating up. This was not normal. The weapon became so hot that she could barely hold it. Warning lights flashed on the side. My weapon is broken, she called to her teammates. Use your backup weapon, Decallan replied. He was busy fighting 3 robots at once. Hannah reached for her backup pistol. It was also heating up. The metal was so hot it burned her hand. She dropped it and watched it float away in the zero gravity. Now she had no weapons. A robot soldier rounded the corner ahead of her. It raised its weapon and aimed. Hannah had nowhere to run in the narrow corridor. The robot fired. The energy beam hit Hannah in the chest. Pain exploded through her body. She flew backward and hit the wall hard. The simulation was supposed to be safe, but this felt like real damage. Simulation ended, announced the computer voice. Medical emergency detected. Hannah found herself back in the simulation room, lying on the floor. Her chest hurt badly. Instructor Grixtel was standing over her, but he did not look worried. He looked annoyed. Cadet Lee's weapons malfunctioned, he said to the other instructors. These old human weapons are not very reliable. But Hannah had not been using human weapons. She had been using standard academy equipment. Just like everyone else in the medical bay, Dr. Zolthi looked at Hannah's injuries. The doctor was a gentle alien, with soft grey skin and large caring eyes. You have burns on your chest and hands, the doctor said. Also bruises on your back. You were lucky the simulation stopped when it did, Dr. Hannah said quietly. The weapons were not supposed to get that hot, were they? Dr. Zolthi looked around to make sure they were alone. No, child. Someone changed the safety settings on your equipment. This should not have happened. That night, Hannah could not sleep. Her chest and back hurt, but that was not what kept her awake. Someone had tried to hurt her seriously. Someone had wanted her to get badly injured in the simulation. She got up and walked quietly through the dark corridors of the space station. She needed to find proof of what was happening. The equipment room was supposed to be locked at night, but Hannah had learned how to pick simple locks during her time on Earth. She worked carefully with a small tool until she heard the click. Inside the equipment room, she used a small flashlight to look around. Rows of weapons and training gear filled the shelves. She found the weapons that had been used in today's simulation. Her plasma rifle was there. She picked it up and looked at it carefully. On the side was a small panel that controlled the power settings. Someone had opened this panel and changed the numbers inside. The weapon had been set to full combat power instead of training power. If the simulation had not stopped, the rifle could have exploded and killed her. Looking for something human, Hannah spun around. Commander Vekvar was standing in the doorway. His black eyes reflected her flashlight beam. Behind him stood Sub-Commander Grixtel and 2 other Vorthok soldiers. Hannah started to say. You were just breaking into a restricted area, Commander Vekvar said. He stepped into the room. That is a serious crime, Cadet Lee. Hannah's heart was beating fast, but she tried to stay calm. Someone changed the settings on my weapon today. I was looking for proof. Commander Vekvar laughed. It was a cold, ugly sound. Proof. You think we need to sabotage equipment to defeat humans? You are weak enough already. He moved closer. Hannah backed up until she hit the wall. But since you are so curious about equipment failures, he continued, perhaps you would like to know about tomorrow's training exercise. Hannah said nothing. We will be testing new combat armor in a live-fire exercise, Commander Vekvar explained. Real weapons, real danger. Very exciting for young cadets. Live-fire training is not allowed for first-year students, Hannah said. Rules change, the commander replied. Especially for students who break into equipment rooms at night. He leaned down so his face was close to hers. I suggest you get some sleep, Cadet Lee. Tomorrow will be a very long day. For those who survive it. The Vorthok left her alone in the equipment room. Hannah stood there shaking, not from cold, but from fear. She finally understood what was happening. This was not just discrimination. This was not just making life hard for humans. This was murder. Commander Vekvar was planning to kill human cadets and make it look like training accidents. Tomorrow, she would have to find a way to stay alive. And somehow. The next morning came too soon. Hannah had barely slept after her meeting with Commander Vekvar. When the alarm rang, she felt tired and scared. But she also felt something else. She felt angry. At breakfast, she sat with the other humans and whispered about what she had discovered. They changed the power settings on my weapon, she told them quietly. Commander Vekvar is trying to kill us. Are you sure? Asked Seo Taik, a tall boy with nervous eyes. Maybe it was just a mistake. There are no mistakes like that, Yoon Swa said. She understood machines better than anyone. Someone did it on purpose. Kim Ji-ho looked around the dining hall. If they want to kill us, why not just do it? Why make it look like accidents? Because other species are watching, Minho explained. If humans start dying in suspicious ways, people will ask questions. But if we die during training exercises, it looks normal. Bae Yuna, a quiet girl with short hair, spoke up. What do we do? Hannah had been thinking about this all night. We stay together, we watch each other's backs, and we try to survive until someone believes us. After breakfast, all the first-year cadets gathered in the main hangar. 3. Transport. Ships were waiting for them. Commander Vekvar stood in front of the ships with his arms crossed. Today you will participate in a special training exercise, he announced. You will travel to mining station Alpha 7 in the Kepler system. There is a dispute between the miners and the station management. Your job is to restore peace. This sounded like a normal peacekeeping mission, but Hannah noticed something wrong. The transport ships were old and poorly maintained. The weapons they were given were also old. Some of them looked like they might not work at all. Teams of 12, Instructor Grickstall called out. Mixed species. Load into the transports. Hannah found herself on Transport 2 with 11 other cadets. Besides the humans, there were 3 Vorthok cadets, 2 blue-skinned Zephyrians, and 1 each of 4 other alien species. One of the Zephyrians was named Zephyria. She had pale blue skin and silver eyes. Unlike most aliens, she had always been kind to the humans. Something feels wrong about this mission, Zephyra whispered to Hannah as they took their seats. What do you mean? Hannah asked. Mining station Alpha 7 was abandoned 3 months ago, Zephyra said. There are no miners there. There is no dispute. Hannah felt ice in her stomach. If the station was empty, then why were they going there? The transport ships flew through space for 6 hours. Hannah looked out the small window and saw only stars and darkness. Mining station Alpha 7 was built inside a large asteroid. It looked dead from the outside. No lights, no movement. Prepare for docking, announced the pilot. The transport ship connected to the station's docking bay. Air pumps worked to balance the pressure between the ship and the station. When the doors opened, stale air flowed in. Teams will spread out through the station. Commander Vekvar's voice came over their radios. Find the source of the conflict and report back. But Hannah knew there was no conflict. This was a trap. The cadets walked through the station's empty corridors. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. Everything smelled like old metal and dust. "Stay close," Hannah whispered to the other humans. They moved deeper into the station. The corridors were narrow and maze-like. It would be easy to get lost here. It would also be easy to get trapped. Hyunwoo, one of the human cadets, was walking beside Hannah. He was strong and calm, with careful eyes that noticed everything. "The Vorthok cadets are not with us anymore," he said quietly. Hannah looked around. He was right. The 3 Vorthok who had been on their transport were gone. She had not seen them leave. "Where did they go?" asked Choi Nara, before anyone could answer. The lights went out. The station was suddenly dark, except for the small lights on their uniforms. In the darkness, Hannah heard a sound that made her blood freeze. It was the whining noise of charging energy weapons. "Get down!" she shouted. Blue plasma beams lit up the dark corridor. The shots came from ahead of them, and behind them. They were surrounded. Lim Soman, a smart girl who was good with computers, cried out in pain. A plasma beam had hit her shoulder. She fell to the ground. "Return fire!" shouted Kordash, one of the alien cadets. But when they tried to shoot back, their weapons did not work. The triggers clicked, but nothing happened. The old weapons they had been given were broken. More plasma beams filled the corridor. A boy who knew about explosives grabbed Hannah's arm. "This way," he shouted, pointing to a side passage. The cadets ran into the side corridor as energy beams flew past their heads. Behind them, Hannah could hear heavy footsteps. Their attackers were following in the dim emergency lighting. She saw who was chasing them. They were not miners or station security. They were Vorthok soldiers in full combat armor. "It's the same Vorthok from our transport," Zephyra said. "They planned this." The cadets ran through the twisting passages of the mining station. The Vorthok were bigger and stronger, but the narrow corridors slowed them down. Also, the cadets were scared, and fear made them run faster. They reached a large open area filled with mining equipment. Huge machines sat silent in the darkness. Conveyor belts and metal pipes created shadows everywhere. "We can hide here," whispered Esiotyke. But hiding would not save them. The Vorthok had better weapons and armor. They also knew the cadets' weapons were broken. This was not a fair fight. It was an execution. Hannah looked around at her friends. Kim Ji-ho was helping the wounded Lim Soman walk. Bae-yuna was shaking with fear. Minho was trying to fix his broken weapon. They were all going to die unless she did something. "Everyone listen," she said quietly. "The Vorthok think we are helpless because our weapons don't work, but we are not helpless. We are human." "What does that mean?" asked Oh Hyunwoo. "It means we don't give up," Hannah replied. "It means we use what we have. Look around. This is a mining station. There are tools everywhere. Cutting lasers, heavy machinery, explosive charges." Yun Swa's eyes lit up. "We can fight back, but they have real weapons and armor," Nara said. "And we have something they don't have," Hannah said. "We have nothing to lose." The sound of Vorthok boots was getting closer. They were moving through the station, searching room by room. "Split up," Hannah ordered. "Use the mining equipment as weapons. Set traps. Make them afraid. Show them what humans do when we are cornered." The other cadets looked at her with new respect. Even the aliens seemed to understand that something had changed. The small, weak human girl was not acting weak anymore. "What about you?" Minho asked. Hannah picked up a heavy metal tool from a nearby workbench. It was not a weapon, but it could hurt someone if she used it right. "I'm going to find Commander Vekvar," she said. "This ends tonight." As her friends spread out through the mining station, Hannah walked back toward the main corridor. She could hear the Vorthok talking to each other in their harsh language. They sounded confident. They thought they had already won. They were about to learn that humans were very dangerous. When they had nothing left to lose, Hannah moved through the dark corridors like a ghost. Her soft human feet made no sound on the metal floor. Behind her, She could hear the Vorthok soldiers talking loudly to each other. They were not trying to be quiet. They thought they had already won. They were wrong. Hannah reached the main power room. Inside were the controls for the station's lights, air, and gravity. She had watched Yoon Swa work with machines many times. She knew enough to be dangerous. She found the lighting controls and turned them off completely. Now the entire station was dark except for small emergency lights. The Vorthok had night vision equipment, but it was not perfect. Darkness was her friend now. From somewhere in the station, she heard a loud crash, then a Vorthok voice shouting in pain. One of her friends had struck back good. Hannah left the power room and moved deeper into the station. She was hunting now. The Vorthok thought they were the predators, but they were wrong. Humans had been hunters for millions of years. It was in their blood. She found her first target in a storage room. The Vorthok soldier was alone, searching through boxes of mining equipment. His back was turned to the door. He was big and strong, but he was not paying attention. Hannah picked up a heavy metal pipe from the floor. She moved closer, step by silent step. The Vorthok did not hear her coming. She swung the pipe as hard as she could at the back of his head. The metal hit his skull with a loud crack. The soldier fell forward and did not get up. Hannah took his weapon. It was a plasma rifle, much better than the broken guns they had been given. She also took his ammunition and his knife. Now she was armed. The next Vorthok was in the main corridor. He was calling out to his friends, trying to stay in contact. Hannah climbed up into the air vents above the ceiling. The vents were small and dark, perfect for someone her size. She crawled through the metal tubes until she was directly above the soldier. Through the vent cover, she could see him walking back and forth below her. Hannah quietly removed the vent cover and dropped down behind him. Before he could turn around, she put the knife between his shoulder blades. He made a choking sound and fell. 2 down. From her radio, she heard Commander Thekvar's angry voice. "Report. What is your status?" Static answered him. His soldiers were not responding because they could not respond. "Find those human rats and kill them," he shouted into the radio. But Hannah was not a rat. She was a hunter, and she was just getting started. She found Oh Hinwoo in the mining equipment bay. He had turned on one of the huge drilling machines and was using it to fight Vorthok soldiers. The drill bit spun at incredible speed, throwing sparks everywhere. The Vorthok could not get close to him. Hinwoo, Hannah called. She threw him the extra plasma rifle she had taken. He caught it and smiled. "Thanks. These guys are not as tough as they look." One of the Vorthok tried to circle around the drilling machine. Hinwoo shot him with the plasma rifle. The soldier's armor was strong, but the blast knocked him backward into a wall. He hit his head and stopped moving. The other Vorthok soldier ran away. "They are scared," Hinwoo said. "I can smell their fear." Hannah nodded. "Good. Scared enemies make mistakes." They split up again. Hannah continued her hunt through the station. In the communications room, she found Bae Yuna working at a computer terminal. "I am sending a distress signal," Yuna explained. "If we can reach the academy, they will have to send help." "Can you also control the station's systems from here?" Hannah asked. "Some of them. Why?" "I have an idea." Hannah explained her plan to Yuna. The other girl's eyes grew wide. "That is very dangerous," Yuna said. "Everything is dangerous now," Hannah replied, "but this might work." Yuna's fingers moved quickly over the computer controls. "Give me 5 minutes." Hannah left the communications room and continued hunting. She found another Vorthok in the cafeteria. This one was smarter than the others. He had turned over tables to create cover and was watching all the doors, but he was not watching the ceiling. Hannah crawled through the air vents again. When she was above the soldier, she dropped a heavy tool through the vent opening. The tool hit the Vorthok's helmet with a loud bang. He looked up, confused. That was when Hannah dropped down on top of him. They fought hand to hand in the dark cafeteria. The Vorthok was much stronger than Hannah, but she was faster. When he swung his big fists at her, she ducked and hit him with her knife. When he tried to grab her, she slipped away like water. Finally, She managed to get behind him and wrap her arm around his neck. Humans were not as strong as Vorthok, but they could be very stubborn. She squeezed and held on, no matter how hard. He struggled. After a long minute, he stopped struggling. Hannah's radio crackled. It was Yuna's voice. "Ready when you are." "Do it," Hannah replied. All around the station, things began to happen. Mining lasers turned on by themselves and started cutting. Through walls, conveyor belts started moving, carrying debris and metal pieces at high speed. Automated loading machines began picking up anything they could find and throwing it. Around the station had become a death trap. Hannah heard Vorthok voices shouting in fear and confusion. Their carefully planned ambush was falling apart. The prey had become the hunters. She made her way toward the command center, where she knew Commander Vekvar would be. Along the way, she met on Do-yon and Seo Taik. Both were carrying weapons they had taken from defeated Vorthok soldiers. "How many are left?" she asked. "3, maybe 4, Do-yon replied, "plus the commander, and us." "All the humans are alive," Taik said. "Lim Soman is hurt, but she will be okay. The alien cadets are safe too. They had done the impossible." A group of unarmed cadets had defeated trained Vorthok soldiers, but the hardest part was still ahead. Commander Vekvar was waiting for them. In the command center, when they arrived, they found him standing behind a control panel. His plasma rifle pointed at the door. "So, the little humans think they are warriors now," he said. His voice was calm, but Hannah could see fear in his black eyes. "We never wanted to be warriors," Hannah replied. "You made us into warriors." "You killed my soldiers," Vekvar said. "Your soldiers tried to kill us first." The commander laughed, but it sounded forced. "Do you think this changes anything? Do you think anyone will believe you? You are just humans. I am Commander Vekvar of the Vorthok Empire." "You were Commander Vekvar," Hannah corrected. "Now you are just a murderer who failed." She could see the rage building in his eyes. Good, angry enemies made even more mistakes than scared ones. "I should have killed you all on the first day," he snarled. "Yes," Hannah agreed. "You should have, but you wanted to play games. You wanted to make it look like accidents. That was your mistake." Vekvar raised his weapon. "No more games. No more accidents, just death." But as he spoke, Hannah noticed something. His hands were shaking slightly. His breathing was too fast. The big, powerful Vorthok commander was terrified of a small human girl. Commander Vekvar's finger tightened on the trigger of his plasma rifle. Hannah could see death in his black eyes. Behind her, on Do-yon and Seo Taik raised their own weapons, but they were too far away to help. "Any last words, human?" Vekvar asked. "Yes," Hannah said calmly. "You should have studied human history better."
"What?"
"Humans have a saying," Hannah continued. "If you want to kill a human, you better make sure they stay dead. Because if they survive, they will come back for you." Vekvar laughed. "Big words. From someone about to die. You already shot me once," Hannah said. "In the simulation, remember? You changed my weapon settings and tried to kill me, but I survived." The commander's smile faded slightly. "That was just a warning." "No," Hannah said. "That was your first mistake. Because now I know what it feels like to be shot by a plasma rifle. And I know I can survive it." She took a step forward. Vekvar's weapon was still pointed at her chest. "Stay back," he shouted. "Or what? You'll shoot me." Hannah took another step. "Go ahead, shoot me. See what happens." Something in her voice made Vekvar hesitate. Humans were supposed to be afraid of death. They were supposed to beg for mercy. But this small human girl was walking toward his weapon like she did not care. "You're bluffing," he said. "Am I?" Hannah smiled, but it was not a nice smile. There's only one way to find out. Behind the commander, Hannah could see Yoon Swa crawling through an air vent in the ceiling. Her friend was moving very slowly and quietly. "Almost there." "You think you've won," Vekvar said. "But even if you kill me, nothing will change. There are millions of Vorthok in the galaxy. We control everything. Humans are nothing." "Maybe," Hannah agreed. But you won't be around to see what happens next. Vekvar's hands were shaking worse now. Sweat was running down his grey skin. I am a commander of the Vorthok Empire. I am not afraid of one small human. Then why are your hands shaking? Hannah asked. She was close enough now that she could reach out and touch his weapon. Any normal person would be terrified. But Hannah had learned something important over the past few hours. She had learned that she was very hard to kill. Last chance, Vekvar said. Get on your knees and beg for mercy. Maybe I will make your death quick. No, Hannah said simply. Vekvar pulled the trigger. The plasma beam hit Hannah in the chest and threw her backward. Pain exploded through her body like fire. The smell of burned flesh filled the air. She crashed into the wall and slid to the floor. Hannah, shouted Doyon and Tyke. They started to run toward her. Commander Vekvar laughed. Finally, the little human is dead. But then Hannah started to move. She pushed herself up from the floor, her hand pressed against the burnt hole in her uniform. Blood was running between her fingers. Her face was pale and twisted with pain, but she was standing. Impossible, Vekvar whispered. That shot should have killed you. Should have, Hannah agreed. Her voice was weak but steady. But humans are very stubborn about dying. The truth was that the plasma beam had missed her heart by only a few centimeters. It had burned through muscle and skin, but not deep enough to kill her immediately. Her human body was already working to stop the bleeding and keep her alive. You're dying, Vekvar said. You just don't know it yet. Maybe, Hannah said. But I'll live long enough. Long enough, for what? Hannah looked up at the ceiling. Yunsua was directly above Vekvar now, holding something in her hands. Long enough for my friend to finish her job, Hannah said. Vekvar looked up just as Yunsua dropped from the air vent. In her hands was a mining charge, a small explosive used to break apart rocks. She landed on the commander's back and pressed the charge against his neck. Surprise, Swa said. Vekvar tried to grab her, but Swa pressed a button on the mining charge. It did not explode immediately. Instead, it started beeping. 10 seconds until detonation. Get it off me, Vekvar screamed. He spun around, trying to reach the charge on his neck. Can't, Swa said, as she jumped away from him. It's magnetic, and the timer can't be stopped. 9 seconds. Vekvar ran toward the door, but Doyen and Tyke blocked his way with their weapons. 8 seconds. Please, Vekvar begged. I'm sorry. I'll stop hunting humans. I'll leave you alone. 7 seconds. Too late for sorry, Hannah said. She was leaning against the wall, still bleeding, but her eyes were hard as stone. 6 seconds. Vekvar dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. Mercy. I beg for mercy. 5 seconds. Did you show mercy to the humans you killed? Hannah asked. Did you show mercy when you sabotaged our weapons? For seconds I was following orders, Vekvar cried. 3 seconds. So were we, Hannah replied. Our orders were to survive. 2 seconds. Vekvar looked at her with pure terror in his eyes. This isn't possible. Humans don't do this. Humans are weak. 1 second. No, Hannah said. Humans are persistent. The mining charge exploded. When the smoke cleared, Commander Vekvar was gone. The wall behind where he had been standing was cracked and burned. The great Vorthok warrior who had planned to kill all the human cadets was dead. Hannah slid down the wall and sat on the floor. The pain in her chest was getting worse, but she was alive. Around her, her friends were checking to make sure everyone was safe. Is it over? Asked Lim Somin. Her shoulder was bandaged, but she was walking. For now, Hannah said. Yun Swa knelt beside her and looked at her wound. We need to get you to a doctor. I'll live, Hannah said. Humans are tough to kill. A few hours later, rescue ships arrived from the academy. When they found the cadets, they also found the bodies of the Vorthok soldiers and the destroyed command center. The story came out quickly. Commander Vekvar had tried to murder human cadets and make it look like a training accident. Instead, The humans had fought back, and the news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The mighty Vorthok Empire had been defeated by a group of unarmed human children. It was impossible. It was embarrassing. It was terrifying. At the academy, things changed fast. New rules were made to protect all cadets. Weapons were checked more carefully. Training exercises were watched by multiple instructors. Most importantly, humans were no longer seen as weak. Captain Velthara visited Hannah in the medical bay. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Sore," Hannah replied, "but alive. The Academy Council wants to give you and your friends medals for bravery." "We don't need medals," Hannah said. "We just want to finish our training." "And you will," Captain Velth promised, "but things will be different now. Other species will look at humans with new eyes." "Good," Hannah said. "Maybe now they'll understand that being small doesn't mean being weak." 2 weeks later, Hannah was back in class. Her chest still hurt when she moved too quickly, but the doctors said she would heal completely. Humans were good at healing, just like they were good at surviving. In the dining hall, things were different. The Vorthok cadets no longer pushed the humans around. Other alien species made room for them at tables. Even the teachers treated them with more respect. "Do you think they'll try again?" Minho asked during lunch. "Maybe," Hannah said. "But next time they'll think twice. They know now that humans don't give up." "Even when shot with plasma rifles," Swa added with a grin. "Especially then," Hannah agreed. Across the dining hall, she could see new cadets arriving. Some were human, some were alien. They would all have to learn to work together. But now, the aliens knew something important about humans. They knew that humans could be hurt, could be wounded, could even be killed, but they also knew that humans were very, very hard to keep down.